Chapter 2. Elander spun around as another section of the Cyrodian palace crumbled. A bridge between two of the towers had been compromised, struck and cracked by a wayward blast of magic, and now those towers were tilting toward one another, their sides buckling under the weight of their own impending collapse, their bricks shifting free and clattering to the ground with rapidly increasing frequency. He fought the urge to sprint for safety, instead searching the space below the towers for anyone who might be in harm's way. All of the bodies he saw appeared dead.
No one left to save.
The violent tinging and cracking of shattering glass and the thunder of falling stone vibrated through him, rattling his bones and making his balance sway. He gripped the sword in his hand more tightly and backed swiftly away from the towers. The air sizzled with magic and shivered with unnatural breezes. The scent of blood and other bodily fluids mingled with dust and fire, making his stomach turn and his eyes water. The sound of shouting and clashing weapons pounded into his skull, reverberating through it without mercy. There were too many enemies to count. The initial attack had been largely made up of the familiar, faceless monstrosities they'd fought in the past, the Namtar, servants of the dark god with an ability to shift and negate energy. But as the hours pressed on, more nightmarish beings had slid into the ranks. Elander recognized deadly creatures he had not seen in decades, the servants of divine enemies who hadn't walked this mortal plane in at least as long. To his right, a bird-like creature with glowing eyes and curved claw-tipped wings, resembling scythes, ripped the flesh from a fallen soldier. To his left, another beast encircled a trio of palace guards. Flames sprung up wherever its paws stepped, fanned further to life as it unhinged its jaw and exhaled a roar of breath laced with smoke. Before the guards disappeared behind the wall of flames, Elander caught a glimpse of them dropping to their knees and starting to beg for mercy.
So much chaos.
He desperately wanted to stop it all, to turn away from the devastation and focus only on the single most devastating thing to him.
Cassia was gone.
She had vanished into the air only minutes ago, whisked away by use of a magical hourglass the goddess of time had given her. He only wanted to think of her in that moment. Where had she gone? How could he reach her? But before he could answer these questions, he first had to survive the battle directly in front of him. A sudden howl made him spin around, drawing his gaze to the orchestrator of this battle. Malafar, the dark god of chaos himself, had been contained by magic, by a combined effort from Cassia and the goddess of the moon. His cage had splintered. He was breaking free, his body more shadow than solid flesh as it expanded and blotted out the scenery behind him. The first definite parts to reform were his wings, unfolding and stretching out from his confines with violent twitches. Each snapping twitch sent bits of magic peeling into the air with a sound like chains popping, breaking off link by link. Once the powerful wings had broken free, it took only a single mighty flap to lift him entirely up and out of his prison. He hovered for a moment, a terrifying cloud of darkness surveying the death and destruction he'd caused. The ground shook as the god touched down upon it. The dark armor covering him glistened like inky feathers in the moonlight as he twisted toward Elander, while simultaneously reaching for the weapon at his hip. He withdrew an obsidian blade that crackled with whitish blue light and swung it in a wild arc. A wave of shadowy energy swept outward with the motion, flattening everything around him, people and trees and man-made structures alike. As the energy washed over Elander, his own magic ignited, the magic of a guardian, a Vitali, rising to form armor made of golden light, pulsing like stars emerging against a deepening twilight. He managed to stay on his feet even as others collapsed around him. Soon he was the only thing still standing within the god's path, and he was the one Malafar's burning eyes narrowed on. Behind him, Elander heard the sound of countless pounding boots, all growing fainter, running away. He gave no thought.
To keep listening to this audiobook, I've left you a link in the description so you can do it, at no cost thanks to Audible's 30-day free trial.